Hello everyone, I'm day weather meteorologist Don Day with your Public Lands Council weekly weather update for this November 23rd, 2024, brought to you by WSR Insurance and Ag Risk Advisors. Well, a lot of you in the Pacific Northwest, California, some of the interior west seen a lot of very stormy, unsettled weather here over the last week, especially Washington and Oregon into Northern California with heavy rain, snow, and boy, a lot of wind. But you should see that storm pattern ease a bit. That stormy weather pattern is going to ease some in the next 7 days. There'll still be some weather, especially early in the period. But we will see some of that Pacific Northwest storminess bring some colder weather to the Rockies and points east. Especially east of the Rockies, you're going to see some colder weather. The northern plains into the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest all of a sudden going to be acting more like winter. This is going to be more like an early winter pattern now as we head into December, especially for the nation's midsection from the northern plains into the Great Lakes in the Northeast, your first real taste of winter, with a little bit of a break for the West Coast. In the past week, you can see how wet it's been from the southern plains to the northern plains right here, with some wet weather, some wintry weather as well. And there's the very stormy weather that's been hitting the Pacific Northwest and some of the interior west. And you don't see it on the map here, but across southern areas of Canada as well. The precipitation anomaly, you can see the green there and the blues along the coastal areas and here across the areas where that storm has developed, and then most recently up here. And we're going to see these general trends continue, especially in this part of the country right here, which is going to be getting more into a wintry weather pattern. Temperatures across the west over the last week from the Rockies to the west coast have certainly been colder, as you can see that. All this warmth in central Canada and areas on the plains, this is going to go away, as you'll see here in a moment. This is why the jet stream is causing a ridge of high pressure to build in the eastern Pacific. Colder air now is going to come in out of Canada into the Rockies and into the plains in the coming 7 to 10 days ahead. Now, this high pressure should give some of the Pacific Northwest in this part of the country a little bit of a break, as the wintry weather will be more east of the Rockies into the plain states and into the Great Lakes. There you can see that. By the upcoming weekend, the weekend after Thanksgiving, a lot of cold pours into areas along and east of the divide and into the plains and into the Great Lakes region. So the door is open to Canada along and east of that black line I just drew for you, and you can see that. These are temperatures by the upcoming weekend. The weekend after this one, you see the cold coming. That's going to bring in some much colder temperatures for a lot of the nation east of the Rockies. And with that will be some precipitation. Now you can see some heavy moisture. This will be all snow over southern Canada, then the far northern tier of the U.S. Notice the precipitation in the Great Lakes. That's lake effect snows. These areas here will see significant snows. Some good snows in the central Rockies over the next week. Now, we don't see a lot of snow out on the plains, but some. You can see the heavy precipitation early in the period still affecting the Pacific Northwest and California. Most of this precipitation right here is in the short term, in the days ahead. But we see that changing as we get into next week. The cold, there it is, starting to really pour into the northern plains. Even these white areas here, you're going to see temperatures get a lot colder. Still colder than average in the Pacific Northwest and into some of the Front Range areas and adjacent plains, colder than it's been in the 7 to 10 day period coming on up. So the end of November into the first days of December for a lot of the nation is going to be colder and a lot more wintry, especially for you folks in the northern Rockies and the northern plains. That's quite the deviation from average, so be ready for colder temperatures, colder wind chills, and a bit of winter. Snowfall looks like this. You can see the heavy snowfall in southern Canada, then into the northern plains. These are lake effect snows in Michigan over the Great Lakes. Along the Great Lakes, you're going to see some lake effect snows kicking into gear with that colder weather moving on in. That's your latest weekly update. Our next update will be the 30th. Have yourself a good week ahead.